So viewers of this channel may know that I've been going through a housing predicament of my own, but hey, the Liberal Party is coming in to save the day. Marty up north. Hey, guess what? Everything's gonna be right for me because the Liberal Party is gonna save me and all the other people that are dealing with housing shortages.
Are they sending you a check with so you can go buy yourself a new tent?
maybe, but we're not getting the carbon rebate, as they call it out here in British Columbia. So I'm going to be paying that carbon tax. I don't know how. Anyway, I couldn't believe it. I got to show this. This is the Liberal Party today on Twitter. It hasn't been worse for them ever. The housing situation in Canada has never been worse than it is currently. And what do? They come out and they say, we're delivering more support for renters and introducing new pathways to home ownership. And they're going to do it by protecting renters. Tenant Protection Fund. Okay, we're going to all pay into some fund. Canadian Renters Bill of Rights, which is, yeah, that's going to be great. Stepping on more people's private property. Making rental payments history part of mortgage qualification. I know guys in the financial market, they're saying, how in ever are you going to make that work?
Right now, they're grasping at straws. In fact, almost everything they're announcing to do with housing isn't resonating with Canadians because most Canadians appreciate that what they're announcing is actually going to make things worse.
Yeah,
like we know that rental. It's just going to make things worse. I mean, we could break it down, but it's not resonating, and it's been a topic all day long, man, all day long, and I don't even think they don't even read their own press releases. You know, like Freeland today she reiterated we're going to build 4 million homes in the next 6 years. And somebody just brings up the stats. They just say, okay, Minister Freeland, sounds good. But, your own government stats were released a couple of days ago. And there was I don't know, don't quote me exactly, but 20,000 housing starts. I don't even think it was 20,000 housing starts in April. It was 17,000. So that's 200,000 housing starts a year at best. And people just fail to see the math. They absolutely fail to see the math. And what does Freeland say? Well, thank you for your question. It's a really important question. We're working hard to blah, blah, blah.
And we've been doing so great for so long. But when you look at the reality, they haven't been doing good. And they've been doing bad for really long. And this is a great clip because this is the legacy from 2015 showing the average rent cost as he's doing his speeches across time. This is great.
We need real change in affordable housing.
The federal government is not only back in housing, but we're here to stay.
We're moving forward with a national housing strategy. We made housing a priority.
The federal government does have a role to play in housing.
I'll be blunt as well. Housing isn't a primary federal responsibility.
How do you even keep a straight face with that? Now, for viewers that are new to the channel and they're wondering, oh, what are you even talking about, Clyde, at the beginning of this video? I got kicked out of my place, and I'm guessing I got kicked out of my place because the owner of the house was like, a number of different things it could have been. I'm getting out of this market because they're going to be coming and regulating the crap out of this, so I'll have way less return on my investment. Or I look at the rents now. I'd like to get a piece of that market and get into it that way. It's crazy. Renter owners, they can only increase rent by 4% per year. That's in British Columbia. It's different in every province. But the costs are going way beyond that. So how do you get people out? Well, you renovate and you evict them. They're calling it rent-evictions, and it's happening to people all over the place. And I'm in one of those situations. I've been kicked out of my place recently, and well, here we are in a tinier place as a temporary solution. And it looks like my internet situation has also been affected by this. Marty will be back in just a minute here. That should be good. And we're back. Well, so one of the things that comes with having to move around is sometimes being so far out of the service area that your service doesn't come through as well. So this is part of the thing that I'm dealing with now. And this, again, the more the government comes in and says, I want to help you, the more I want to say, stop helping us. This is why I'm in the situation I'm in. It's because you've been trying to help us all this time.
Yeah, they're everything they're well, first of all, yeah, stop trying to help us. Actually, just what happened is another example of government failures. Like, how many times has Trudeau promised to fix, to make internet cheaper, to deal with, like, the guy's full of promises. I mean, if you ever want to know what Trudeau's going to do, it's a pretty classic formula for him. It's promise everything and deliver nothing. That's it. Like, and in some senses, like we've said on the show in the past, in some senses, I'm glad he's that way. For instance, he talks about banning firearms, and I go, it'll never happen because he can't manage anything. But then you also want him to do something once in a while. I would like him to address housing problems, but he won't do it the normal way. I mean, the normal way to address housing problem right now is to get the hell out of the way. That's all he needs to do. Get out of the way and slow down immigration by quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then, somebody posted something today. Even I, some days I go, God, are we crowded? Are we we're not even crowded, right? Think about it. Texas has more people than Canada.
Yeah.
And they have houses. There's no housing crisis in Texas. So how come other places can do it and we can't?
Well, I mean, there's booms and busts in Texas. I mean, Austin area where I'm going to be moving to, it largely went up because a lot of people from California were like, where can we move in Texas? And that was the spot. And now the prices are coming down. Like, this is what happens when you have a boom and then it kind of fizzles out. Yeah, the prices went up and now they're coming down. This is not happening in Canada, and it's because of, well, obviously we have a shortage of supply. That's a given. We would like to make more, but no crown land is being opened up. No government land is being opened up for people to build on. So people are trying to make smaller and smaller areas fit more and more people in them. It's terrible.
Well, yeah, even today in Freeland was like, it was on the topic. It was she was talking about it today. They made a press release about housing. Well, let's explain to folks why there's so much talk about housing. First of all, it is a relevant topic, and the government's decided to make it a topic. So the government put a lot of housing initiatives in the budget, but the budget's not approved right now. And the way the budgets get approved is they presented the budget on April 16th, but now they have to actually take the measures that were presented in the budget and turn them into some sort of laws that we can vote on. Well, they've been debating this back and forth because the budget's a joke. It's not resonating with Canadians. And the committees aren't agreeing with what they are proposing, such as what you were talking earlier. This renters bill of rights, the mortgage bill of rights, or I can't remember what they called it. Like, they want to tinker with mortgages, they want to do so many things, and real experts, the parliamentary budget officer, Tiff Macklin at the Bank of Canada, all sorts of people are coming to committees and saying these are bad ideas. Like, these are really bad ideas. And in fact, they're such bad ideas. The next elections in 2 years from now, these ideas are so bad that you could see the results of these ideas in the next 2 years. So if the Liberals want to improve things, they're going down a path that's going to make things so bad that it's just going to hurt them. So I think even the Liberals they're pushing it, but they're having second thoughts,
Well, I mean, look at what's happened with the implementation, what they're talking about raising the corporate gains tax, or the capital gains tax. Sorry, capital gains tax. That news gets out. What do people start doing? Financial news in Canada, you hear people saying, oh, tax haven, tax haven, tax haven. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about Cayman Islands. They're talking about taking their money out of Canada, out of any investments that they have here, put them in the Cayman Islands so that you can have a corporation there that can invest elsewhere in the world and not get dinged with Canadian taxes. Like, it's, again, the Laffer curve is what ends up happening here, where people are taxed so much to the point where they get to a point, they say, forget it, I'm opting out entirely from this tax system.
Well, the Canadian stock market has taken a beating for 4 or 5 days in a row now. Last month wasn't all that hot, and now it's continuing. Interesting you bring up the Laffer curve. That's something on my list of things to do. I want to do it. It's hard to. It's one of the. I want to. I'm convinced, you know this. The Laffer curve predicts that as Trudeau and the government increased the tax rate, that the amount of money that the government collects went down. I know the government's collecting less money. We all know it.
Yeah.
I'd love to dive through the Stats Canada report and try and show it, but that would take a lot of effort. So, yeah,
well, the more you incentivize people to come into the country and invest here, the more taxes will be collected. I mean, every time you employ a new person, that's a whole person worth of taxes generated a year, every year. If you pull money out of the economy, it's going to slow down. Everything will slow down. You'll have less to basically, you have less to suckle from. I mean, the vampire suckling from the public, and it really is coming down to the end of that. The only way out is to lower taxes and foster a less regulated market for companies to entice them to come in.
And the Liberals won't lower. They were week in the House. No, was it late last week or earlier this week? No, I think it was early this week. The Poilievre brought up a super reasonable point, right? It's summer season. Canadians need a break. And one of the things Canadians love to do is drive to their summer cottage. We're a large country, right? We're a country with cottages, with lakes and national parks. They encourage us to go see the national parks. And Trudeau and Poilievre said, "Can we get a break? Could you drop the carbon tax? Like maybe, I don't know, take 12 cents off the price of a liter of gasoline just for the summer." And how did the Liberals respond to that, right? They don't want to lower the carbon tax. They had an absolute bozo eruption when asked a straightforward question.
I got this clip actually right here. I've got the clip here.
Yeah.
So Cat Canada brought this one to Twitter, and it's incredible. It's really incredible that this is where we're going with this.
I will stand for climate change, and so will this party, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, his wacko math gets even worse. He's talking about vacations of 44,000 kilometers. Those are the vacations his boss takes in a taxpayer-funded, fuel-guzzling private jet. The vacations for which conservatives want to give.
Oh, is this a response to it?
Is to a local camp.
That's the next day. You got to find the one of
the one from that day.
You got to find the one from the day before. That one.
His mind.
This is the one, yeah.
Bathroom breaks, and the Conservatives have a plan for you to have that summertime fun. And the cost? Give up the future of the planet, right? Don't worry, kids, about climate change. Don't worry about taking action on the planet. Enjoy your 10 hours in the
Look at Seamus O'Regan. Seamus is even looking at him going, whoa,
what are you doing?
Like he just like did. Like, can you imagine saying that to a kid, right? Like, think about that. Your kid says, "Hey, Dad, can we go to the lake this weekend?" And you're like, "Sure, kid, let's go to the lake. Hope you enjoy the lake, but the planet's going to burn because of you, because we went." Like, basically, that's what that guy did. Like, that's what Mark Holland did. He's trying to scare people he's trying to make us feel guilty for wanting to enjoy ourselves, take a time off, and spend time with the family. And then he's making it sound like Canadians are entirely responsible for the future of the planet, and that a handful of Canadians going on vacation this summer is just going to doom the planet. I don't
think these people are for real. Like, I think they literally they spew this crap out because it's a script, and they try to one up each other on how much they can try to shame the other side. And then when it gets ridiculous like this and people are ridiculed, that's when they come back and they're like, "Well, you're just taking me out of context." And that's
out of context.
That's exactly what he did. Because we got a clip here of him the next day. Actually, there was an article written by the Globe and Mail, and this one cracks me up because here it is. Holland calls criticism of road trip remarks disingenuous, and obviously a big long write up about that. Conservative MPs were amongst social media users sharing the video of Holland's House of Commons saying road trips involve being in a car for 10 consecutive days, nonstop, with no bathroom breaks, and all it costs is the future of the planet. As he goes on, Holland told reporters is out of context. It's completely out of context. Well, we've got some good context here for you. I believe in this this clip right here. I think this is the context that maybe everybody needs to see.
Normally a time where they can go and camp in the mountains or go to a national park or visit loved ones. But this year, many Canadians can't afford this simple delight because this government has made life too expensive.
Good news, kids. You can take a summer fun time vacation where you're locked in a car for 10 consecutive days, nonstop with no bathroom breaks. And the Conservatives have a plan for you to have that summertime fun. And the cost? Give up the future of the planet. Right? Don't worry, kids, about climate change. Don't worry about taking action on the planet. Enjoy your 10 hours in the car and let the planet burn. I'm not caring about human life. Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
These are the two cops that arrested David Menzies
Oh,
when he bumped
that's
into
right. Okay.
Christian Freeland.
You're under arrest.
Okay, so enough of that. There's some other really good ones. There's also mishmash with the in a van down by the river was with Chris Farley. There's some other really good ones. But yeah, of course, what's being pointed out, and this one by Kirk Lubermoff, pointing out that Justin Trudeau himself had a tweet that aged quite well in this. This is him obviously saying every mile is a journey of this journey together is an adventure. I love you, Soph. Happy anniversary. Well, none of that aged very well.
Like I don't know when they're going to learn that the internet is forever, right? I mean, another one who had tweets that didn't age well was Mark Garretson. I love bugging the shit out of Mark. He's the MP out of Kingston. I mean, he did a whole tweet last year, like days on end, about his cross country trip in his Tesla kind of thing. And well, I guess the Tesla is better, right? It's just burning electricity generated from natural gas. And anyways, yeah, that was they're having a hard time walking these back, and we have to. We're doing the right thing. We're doing a combination of exposing their insanity, such as, you know, you're destroying the planet. We got to mock them. There's no, I love mocking them. I mean, they're at this point, we got to mock them. And at the same time, we have to offer some real solutions. I mean, you and I have offered the real solutions for housing. Slow down immigration, get out of the way, get rid of the carbon tax so that inflation can come down a little bit. Let the Bank of Canada do its thing and lower the interest rates. But the way things are going right now, Trudeau is not playing nice with the Bank of Canada. And poor Tiff Macklin tomorrow. I mean, you and I know Tiff needs to increase the interest rate tomorrow, but he won't. He's between a rock and a hard place. He's either going to keep it steady or lower it for maybe a quarter point. Everybody will cheer if he lowers it for a quarter point.
It won't make a difference.
But then we're going to have this rebound. It won't make a difference. In fact, it might make things worse because a quarter point could be this weird psychological trigger that'll suddenly get people who've been on the sideline rushing into the real estate market going, ooh, and now I can afford my mortgage. And I'm curious about tomorrow. I'll go on the record. I think it's going to stay. I think status quo, Tiff Macklin will play it safe and he'll be at 5%.
Yeah, well, that's what I think. I don't think that's what he should do. I think he should be an Alan Greenspan and really drive those interest rates up. I mean, it's the only cure really is not to kick the can down the road and to, you know, rip that Band-Aid off.
Take a hit. Yeah, take a bit of a hit. And we'll see how that goes tomorrow.
But Trudeau has more plans, of course, and he was talking about it in the House of Commons today. This is his plan.
We're leveraging transit funding to build more homes. We're launching a housing design catalog.
He's announcing a catalog, everybody. Hey, right on. Give him a round of applause. Come on, give him a round of applause. Can't afford a home. You might end up in a tent. Your rent is doubled. But hey, you've got a brand new catalog. Mr. Speaker, the question was, will he build 550,000 new homes, yes or no?
No, he won't. And
the catalog was an interesting idea from the 1960s. I lived in a catalog house, by the way. I mentioned this the other day. I lived in a house. I bought a house in Fox Creek, Alberta, Fox Creek is known as a centennial town. It became a little town in 1967, and we all lived in. There was 3 models of homes in that town when it was built, and they all came from the catalog. But the catalog in those days was simply the government realizing that, instead of going to an architect or to somebody to build a house, we'll provide some blueprints cheaply for people to build their own houses. So the catalog was a neat idea. But since then, I don't need a government catalog. In fact, I can buy. You can go to you go to. Remember, I've done it a few times. You could buy a magazine and just flip through blueprints, and then if you like them, you just order the blueprints online. So the whole idea of ordering blueprints online that's completely common. So the government's catalog's a joke right now, but they're trying to embed that catalog into a piece of legislature as we speak. I think it's Bill C-69. And it kind of says that if some municipality builds according to the catalog, then they'll get. Actually, you got to read 69. You got to read some of that. I mean, they're trying to force provinces to accept housing money, and they're putting a condition in there that if a province doesn't accept housing money according to the Liberal conditions, then you forfeit that money and it goes to municipalities. So again, Trudeau's setting up a battle with Alberta. I know Danielle's already made it clear that we're not going down this path. Housing is not a federal jurisdiction as far as we're concerned. And Danielle goes one step further, which is she doesn't want municipalities interacting directly with the federal government on a provincial matter. So Trudeau's setting up another battle with God, he's got about 10 battles going with Alberta right now. The catalog's a nothing burger, but it's there. And I'm glad Pierre made fun of him because it's and I tried to find the catalog. I can find the 1965 catalog online, but I can't find the 2024 catalog because it doesn't exist.
But they're talking about creating a bureaucracy to make the catalog, and we'll see how long that takes to come around. Essentially, is what it is. But what needs to happen in the housing market, on like the municipal level, and even and we lost Marty there briefly. Hopefully, he comes back. There we go. More hiccups along the way. We're back. But another thing that needs to be remedied is the overburden of regulation when building a new home. There are home builders here, even in my town, that I've spoken to that said, I built this house that we're in, 2 years ago, and I can't build this today. I can't build it. Like the regulations have changed so much that I can't use this kind of material. I can't use that kind of material. We're looking at an extra $100,000 just on the purchase, just on the price of materials, just to build a similar house these days. It's crazy, and this is a large increase in why houses cost so much money these days.
Yeah, that's also in the bill today. That's in Bill C-69 in the housing bill. They say we're going to get out of the way, but as you suggested, there's they call it a climate-friendly housing. Like, what the frick does climate-friendly housing mean? It means that they're going to force builders to put solar panels on the roof and things like that, and that's just that's a lot of extra costs. That's a lot of we're not set up. It's not like there's dozens of or hundreds of solar vendor people. If you ask a guy to wire your house for 12 volts and in addition to 120, the electrician's going to go, oh my God, that complicates things. He'll do it, but it's all going to cost you. And then you're going to have solar panels on top of your shingles. The building code isn't designed for that. 5 years from now, your shingle's going to be garbage. Your roof's going to leak. Your solar panels are going to be damaged from hail, and it's all going to add costs.
Yeah.
Like it's welcome to liberal world where we propose solutions to non-existing problems that make things worse.
and it's a lot of the solutions don't come across the board, or there'll be solutions like the heat pumps kind of thing, where it's like, well, we favor this type of technology, so we're going to implement it so you have to use it and you have no other alternative. So SOL, if you wanted to build it a different way, you've got to do it the way that we've set it up. And I mean, we could talk about this for hours about how that could lead to insider trading and all kinds of other things within government.
Oh, it does, Clyde. Remember, I mean, Trudeau came to Alberta last month, and he mysteriously went to a small manufacturing outfit to do an announcement at a modular builder in Calgary. Turns out it was the Governor General the rapporteur, who was an owner in that building. And then, boy, you want to see who owns anything to do with housing? Look up Mark Carney, man. Mark Carney is like the chairman of Brookfield Properties or whatever. You want to know who's involved in heat pumps? Man, I can list 15 guys in government that are there. So always follow the money. Always follow the money.
Yeah, well, if you were wondering if we were like a banana republic, well, there's your answer to that. Speaking of banana republics and dictatorships, apparently one of our officials is familiar with it somehow and knows a lot about working within authoritarian dictatorships. Anyway, this is Chrystia Freeland talking about this just recently.
Let me just say this. We take foreign interference really, really seriously. And I'm just going to speak personally for a minute. Having worked in authoritarian regimes myself, I take the fight in the world right now between democracy and dictatorship really, really seriously.
Really, really seriously. Is she referring to what she did to the those poor truckers with their bank accounts just 2 years ago? I'm not
That's
sure.
a Freudian slip, actually. That I think that's a classic Freudian slip. Like she, having worked for authoritarian dictators, she said, and I'm sure she wanted to say having worked against them, because that's kind of what she was. I know that's what she was trying to say. I've been fighting authoritarian dictators, but she let it slip. I've worked for them. So it's a Freudian slip, pure and simple. And she was asked that question today because this week we're getting that parliamentary committee, another committee, more data. There is pure evidence now that there are 11 MPs who have been compromised by foreign interference, whether it be Chinese or Indian. Minister, I can't remember his name, but one of the ministers said, we don't want to give the names of those 11 because that might, that would let people know how to interfere with us. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of like he's defending it. He's like, we don't want to say who got interfered with, because then the people that are interfering might stop interfering because they'll know that we know that they're interfering. I'm like, wow, what a really weird logic. No, man, we want to know who's been compromised. Yeah, that guy, whoever that guy is.
That's Mark Miller. He's incidentally the housing minister. He's the guy who's in charge of making sure that we all can have a place to live in. But so let's just let them share their logical gymnastics that they got going on.
D-News.
Good morning. I just want to ask about the NCCOP report, and my question is for Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland. The report describes behavior that might constitute treason, and yet we've seen no charges. Does that concern you?
Thank you for the question. I want to start by thanking the committee and the chair, David McGuinty, for their very serious work on this. Our government takes foreign interference extremely seriously. I think your question is an important one because the findings of the committee are concerning, and they should be.
So answer the question.
As the Minister of Public Safety has said, we have confidence in our law enforcement bodies to do their job. And I am glad that our government has now put forward the strongest measures of any Canadian government when it comes to foreign interference, giving our law enforcement bodies the tools to act.
Deputy Prime Minister, you said that the fine
Madame la Vice-Première ministre, vous avez dit que c'est
law enforcement to do the work that they have to do. I guess I would ask, doesn't the public, though, have a right to know who these parliamentarians might be, especially as we approach an election sometime soon, possibly this year, possibly more than likely next year?
Let me just say this.
Waiting for the answer in their
We
ear.
take foreign interference really, really seriously.
So, yeah,
and I'm
this
just
is-
going to speak personally.
This
for a
is her
minute.
bit about taking it very seriously.
Having worked in authoritarian regimes myself, I take the fight in the world right now between democracy and dictatorship really, really seriously. And I think it's moving to a new level. And I think Canadians should not be naive about the fact that one of the objectives of authoritarians around the world is to undermine democracies. They want to make us think that democracy just doesn't work, and they want to show their own people that they should accept authoritarian leadership because democracy isn't fit for purpose in the 21st century.
So, well,
20
she's
years
proving
from
the
now,
rule, though, in that by being an authoritarian in a democracy. I mean, that's exactly it.
It's gaslighting on a whole new level, Clyde. I mean, 20 years from now, some teacher in university is putting on a course on gaslighting and hypocrisy and those concepts. He'll produce clips from Freeland, from Trudeau, from Freeland and Trudeau are masters at it. She's the worst. I mean, she's the worst. And today, that speech, she in this week, she used that line almost verbatim when asked questions about the parliamentary budget officer and the Bank of Canada and David McGuinty, the chair of this committee. Like, first of all, I want to thank the governor of the Bank of Canada. He's doing great essential work. And we take it seriously, but we're going to ignore everything. Like literally ignore everything that these senior bureaucrats are telling them. That's what it is in a nutshell. It's and I watch these shows and I get mad at the journalists. Like, can somebody please do a follow-up question and not accept the bullshit answer? But they're starting to because they're shifting over to give more support to Pierre. So some of the media, I mean, what's his name? Oh God, I'm having anyways. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, of
Gaslighting.
course, it is the right of Canadians to know who has been interfered. If there is interference with any of these MPs and it's bordering on treason, as the reporter suggested, and this is new language coming from the mainstream media to say that the behavior is bordering on treason. You hear this on social media flippantly said so frequently, but to hear it from an actual journalist in one of these pressers that's been invited into one of these pressers to say that. Yeah, it's within the Canadians' rights to know who these people are who are being accused of this, and to say that we need to keep it secret because the secrecy is what's important for democracy to function, or else
for the investigation or for whatever.
Or else we're just cheering on
like when
authoritarianism. That's just it's like you said, ultimate gaslighting.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, we don't want to divulge details because then the people that are compromising these MPs will stop compromising these MPs and then we won't be able to persecute them or prosecute them. I'm like, no, we want to know. And apparently there's 11, and so
11.
We'll find out. It's one of those things. We'll find out eventually. I mean, people will do enough requests for information and something will get leaked out. So. Yeah, that's crazy.
That is crazy. I mean, 11 seats. The Chinese Communist Party has 11 seats in our government. And like, what does the Black Quebecois have? Less than that, don't they?
No, they got more than that. But 11, 11 is, I always say 11 is the equivalent of 22, because if you sway 11 seats, you're swinging a vote by 22, right? I mean, if you have 2 seats and I have 0, and then I compromise 1, then you and I each have 1. So each vote it results in a 2-vote swing. So that's significant. And and then I don't know, it's related to this, but there's a by-election coming up in Toronto next week or 2 weeks from now, I think. Yeah, 2 weeks from now there's a by-election in Toronto, whatever they call it. And I looked at the data the other day, and the Liberals are trending. They're like, if the Liberals win a by-election in Toronto again, like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I mean, like, how much pain do people need, and what does it say about what's going on in places like Toronto and Montreal? Like, are they absolutely insulated from the pain that the rest of us are feeling?
I
can't
can't
believe
see
it.
that because
But
like Toronto is one of the craziest cities for trying to purchase a home or rents. You know,
yeah,
it's getting insane. Or is it just that? Is it only all the sensible people are leaving the city, and everybody else that has a right to vote there that's left is just off their rocker? I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know.
Well, they're all in the streets celebrating Pride right now, so maybe that's why they planned the election that week in Toronto, so that do it during Pride season when nobody's paying attention.
Well, Pride season is
We should-
right.
it-
Pride
I don't-
season is right. It's not Pride
Yeah.
Day or Pride month, week, or even month anymore. It's an entire season. And you know what? It's funny because, you know, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, right? And this is a thing, and I've been talking about this because the whole Palestinian protest stuff that's been going around. I've been saying that this thing's been hijacked. I don't even think that they're really they're not the same people that started protesting in this. I reckon that they were the same people in Black Lives Matter that hijacked that whole movement and moved forward. And sure enough, what happened recently? Well, now we've got the left squaring off with the left because they have causes that conflict with each other. This was in Philadelphia just the other day, and it was the Free Palestine meets Pride. And look at all the faces. Yeah, they were not happy with each other over there. And it's not just there, because this is the scene there, and it ended up turning into like a giant brawl, which is crazy. But it's not so different from what was happening before. Again, here we are in Canada, and it's happening here as well. This was the annual Pride Parade in downtown Winnipeg. It was blocked off by the same group of people.
I think you're right. I think it's happening more than we think. The movement's been hijacked. This stuff is going on, and consequently, we're not hearing about it because word came down from above. Don't cover this. So suddenly this year, there's no coverage of the Pride parades and stuff like that. It's not a coincidence. It's yeah. I was wondering. I asked that question online. How's that gonna Are the pro-Palestinians and the pro-Pride going to play nice on the streets during the upcoming protests? And I don't think they will. I'd like, Jordan Peterson talks about this all the time, right? This battle to be the most oppressed and the most discriminated against is never ending, and they're trying to one up each other. And then you get to the point of the individual being the most important entity, which is a concept that Western society had finally discovered that we're now getting away from again. But
well, I just want to hit the
we'll
fast forward button on their intersectionality pyramid, so we could just get to that point where it's just the individual. Each individual is the minority in any situation. And I agree with that. But what I was referring to with history rhyming is this actually happened only 7 years ago during the Summer of Love, they called it, though, when the Black Lives Matter went all over, all over North America and even in Europe in some places, wreaking havoc. Here's a clip from CBC from 7 years ago talking about Black Lives Matter interrupting the Toronto Pride Parade.
Breaking news in Toronto, Canada's largest Pride Parade is back on the move. A protest by the Black Lives Matter group brought the march to a halt for at least 30 minutes. The organization was given the status of honored group for the event, which is the grand finale of the Pride Month. Now, Alexandria Williams is a co-founder of the Black Lives Matter movement in Toronto, and she joins us now. So, Alexandria, thank you for making the time for us. I have to ask the question that everyone in Toronto is asking. Why did Black Lives Matter halt the Pride Parade?
The reality is we halted the Pride Parade today because Pride Toronto as an organization has been constantly pushing Black folk in terms of their programming, other marginalized communities, in terms of the programming in a very far place away in order for us to celebrate our Pride. So today we held Pride accountable for their anti-Blackness, for their anti-indigeneity, for the fact that we have been pushed to the margins way too long.
you ever heard that word, Marty? Anti-indigeneity.
No, I was trying to figure out what she was saying there. That's a new one for me. Jesus. Wow.
But this repeats.
Wow,
And I'm curious. I want to look this lady up because I would almost guarantee that this lady is involved with these anti or the Palestine protests and hijacking that movement as well. So later on, I'm gonna look her up and maybe I'll have another thing to showcase later.
And I don't know how it relates to all of this, but I'm just going to mention it. I mentioned it online today. Mexico, a country that's 80% Roman Catholic, just elected a Jewish president this week. So I don't know. I don't know how this all plays into it. We'll see in the coming days. And people are like, why are you bringing that up? I'm like, I'm just bringing it up because it appears interesting right now that a country that's 80% Catholic elected a Jewish president. That's all I'm saying, folks. We'll see how this, like, we live in interesting times, man. Hey, watching that story, these stories made, and the unraveling of the liberals made me think of a story that you and I wanted to talk about last week. We didn't talk about. There was a push to lower the voting age.
That's right.
And I don't know if you have any kind of clip on that, but that's another one that seemed to that's another story that fizzled quickly. The liberals, I don't know why the liberals brought that one out. I have no idea. The obvious thought is, they want to attract young voters, so maybe dropping the voting age, but
was it the
overwhelmingly
Liberals
Canadians
or
are
was it
against
the
that idea.
NDP? Because I think the NDP was
It was the NDP. Yeah, it was actually, it was formerly the NDP. You're right. It was formerly.
Well,
the
let's
NDP.
see. Here's the clip here.
My name is Sam Roosh, and I'm the executive director of Apathy is Boring, and I'm thrilled that we. That's fine. I'm thrilled to say that we have endorsed and support the Vote 16 campaign, as well as support Senator McFedrin's Senate bill. Or I should rather say myself, I have worked for nearly a decade in the youth political and democratic engagement space and have been asked, I can't even tell you how many times, why don't young people vote and why don't they turn out to vote? And there are a number of reasons, of course, many of them motivational in nature and what we would call motivational barriers. And the science and the research is clear that extending voting rights to 16 and 17-year-olds and allowing them to participate in their first election earlier in life when they're at a less volatile stage, typically living at home, typically in classrooms engaging with their teachers on matters of civic and democratic engagement, improves the likelihood that they will turn out and vote and improves the likelihood that they will participate long-term in our democracy. As youth voter turnout has declined over the last 50 years, it's essential for the future of this country, for the perceptions of our democracy and the trust in our institutions that young people be able to participate. And this is one way that we can reform our system in order to enable that.
They don't even teach
just when you listen,
they don't even teach civics in class anymore. It's not even a thing.
And that makes me nervous when she says that anyways, right? Like she basically says we want to influence kids when they're still under our influence, i.e. they're still in school. Like, it's amazing how many people don't give credit to any parents. Like, the way she's talking, she made it sound like the only people that are credible that can guide a child is the teacher. And so we want the kids to be able to vote when they're 16 because they get guidance from their teacher. She didn't mention parents.
Not once.
As if parents, and we stop.
All right, got you back. Got you back. Sorry. It happened again.
Okay.
We're on Starlink, so it's like right in between satellites. Sometimes it kicks out. So we're gonna have to live with this for a little while we're in this place.
Yeah. Hit the record button. Are you recording right now?
Oh, we're recording. I didn't stop.
Okay. I'll go back. Interesting point about Starlink. Maybe I can calculate the distance between satellites based on the number of times we skip. Nah, I'm getting scientific. But back to that lady. Like, obviously that I don't think that lady has kids. Anybody who has kids would never propose the idea that a 16-year-old can vote. Nobody.
No way.
I had kids that were 16, man. No way.
No, it's a political influence thing, and it's not about 16-year-olds voting per se. It's about political parties having a voting block that they can use the educational system to basically propagandize and then encourage them to vote a particular way. It's not about them becoming citizens that are, informed and making decisions on their own. No, it's all about other people by proxy making decisions for them.
And just pragmatically, it's another example of somebody of groups wanting to progress us forward in a non-existing problem. Like, and then she claims to have facts. I don't know how many countries around the world allow kids 16 years older to vote. Almost none. So why would we be suddenly the first, right? We're the first ones to adopt MAID. We're the first ones to change the voting age. We're going to be we're creating these problems when we should just be watching what everybody else does. The housing problem. Well, that's another famous thing that the liberals love to tell us, right? That inflation is affecting everyone and this and that. It's like, no, man, I can look next door to the US. They don't have a housing crisis. They don't have an inflation crisis. They don't have an opioid crisis. What they do have, like us, is an immigration crisis, and they think our immigration crisis is out of control. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, ours is.
By the way, that was another crazy moment this week, right? Trump, that jury in New York basically handed Trump an election win. He after the jury found him guilty on these bogus charges or whatever, and I love the expression in the US, like no one's above the law. Well, tell that to Freeland. Apparently MPs are above the law. But when Trump got convicted of that, what did he do? He went to an MMA fight afterwards where everybody cheered him on, loved him, and then his fundraising team raised $200 million last week. $200 million bucks. $200 million freaking dollars immediately went into the Trump coffers, and big names all stood behind him because I saw a great commentary on this. If they're willing to go that hard after Trump, imagine how hard they'll go after you and me and common Joes, right? Americans, that's an awakening for the American, how hard they're attacking Trump. What's the expression, right? When you and I face it all the time. When you're flying over the target, you're feeling the flak. Well, Trump is obviously over the target because they're going after him hard.
This one I couldn't help but share because this one cracked me right up. This is me and my homies on their way to the ballot box in November to vote for a felon. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. He's got so much more sympathy. He came out 6 points ahead the day after being convicted for trumped up charges in New York. And what did the DA do? He got elected on the fact that he was going to be the guy to convict Trump. Show me the crime, show me the man, I'll show you the crime, is the old expression from the Soviet Union. This is what we've got going on right now. And of course, Americans are pretty upset about that. What you mean that anybody, if they could go after the greatest guy in the most powerful guy in the land at one point anyway, what's to stop them from going up against anybody? You say nothing. You say something that they don't like. You do something that they don't like. Within reason and all within your rights to do so, and they can just come after you and use. And this is the crazy part: is all of the things that he was charged with were all misdemeanors, all of them, and they just enhanced the charges to felonies. And then had a jury of his peers, right? His peers in the most anti-Trump district in probably the United States, except for maybe Gavin Newsom's neighborhood in California. It's crazy. It's crazy that was able to fly. I don't even know where it goes from there. Obviously, he's going to appeal. You wouldn't walk away from that without an appeal. And then does that go to a higher court?
No. Yeah, I mean, I brought it up, to be honest. I'm not the closest follower of American politics. I'll follow them more closely as we get closer to the election. But something like this, I mean, he appeals it, and if I understand correctly, it doesn't cancel him off the ballot. It's not because there's a certain category of crimes that disqualifies somebody from running for the president, and it's a crime against the state or something like that, and it's conspiracy, and you have to involve a group of people or whatever, and they've never proven that against Trump. I mean, these trumped up charges of like hush money and stuff like that's all meaningless. And again, similar to back to the left. I mean, on some of the TV shows, they're making fun of like, how could you support Trump, who's a felon? And then I can't remember on what show it was. Maybe it was on The View, but then the guest quickly turned it on to them and said, well, you support George Floyd, the black man who got stepped on his neck. Sure, it's terrible, but he was a felon.
He was a felon, yeah.
And then it's like, oh, that's different. It's like, well, no, it's not different. I mean, you either support felons or you never support felons. And let's define felons. And yeah, if we don't support them, we don't support them. Oh, I don't know what made me think of this, but poor Robert Pickton died this week.
Poor Robert Pickton?
Yeah, I'm just making a joke, but Robert Pickton died this week. He died on Friday, I think. He succumbed to his injuries in jail.
Oh, I was like, wait, poor guy. So when it comes to that story, he incidentally.
Am I confusing you? Sorry. Like,
yeah.
Like, incidentally.
Did I get the name right?
Just a weird segue. Robert Pickton's a really evil man who got beat up. There's
You caught me way off guard on that one.
There's a link that Robert.
You caught me way off guard on
that. He didn't run an island of pedophiles. He ran a pig farm of pedophiles, and there are certain people who frequented his farm. And
so this is
now he's dead.
I don't know enough of the details, but I heard recently that the guy's like a moron. He was a complete moron. He wasn't able to do a lot of like just basic things on his own. But yet we're supposed to believe that he ran this whole operation on his own. And even there's been rumors. I don't know if they're rumors or if he actually was documented saying this, but something along the lines of, as soon as they realize who was working with me or something along those lines, this story is gonna blow up. And nope, he's that lone wolf again. We got one of those lone wolves that pulled off tremendous.
Yeah, he's a pig farmer. There's no way he pulled it off. There's no way. Yeah, exactly. He's a pig farmer. He's not he's a low IQ pig farmer who got fingered for something bad that involved a lot of people. But we'll never know now. I guess we'll never know.
No,
we'll never know.
It's all
he
unbelievable.
Yeah, he died on Friday. Yeah, unbelievable.
And what happened to him? He was assaulted in prison.
He was beat up in prison. Yeah, I don't know. And again, it's one of those things. It's like Epstein hanging himself. It's like, well, no, you can't hang yourself. There's no freaking way to do it. It's like the number one thing. Make sure he doesn't get hung. And Pickton would have been in extreme solitary confinement at a prison in Quebec, separate from everybody else. Miserable existence for the last 30 years. And somehow or other, somebody got to him and beat him up, which in and of itself is suspicious. But yeah, it is what it is. No big sympathy from me. I mean, it was a joke. Poor Robert Pickton. No, I have no sympathy for Robert Pickton. None whatsoever. I don't have yeah.
You caught me off guard on that. Poor. Okay. Fair enough.
Sorry.
Well, on that note, we're gonna have no Marty next week. That's you're going on a trip.
No. Yep. You're not your neck of the woods, your province. I'm going to northern BC. I'm going to the Quesnel area. Doing a cool canoe circuit. You guys are world famous for this. Boron Lakes, it's called. Maybe I'm mispronouncing it, but 116 kilometers, a combination of paddling on lakes, rivers, and portages.
Oh, nice. It'd be like Deliverance.
Yep. Yeah, except I'm the little guy and my buddies are all bigger than me, so no, I gotta.
Fair enough. Marty, where can people find you?
I'm just worried about right now. What I'm most worried about is the atmospheric rivers. Right, we went from scorched earth last week. They were talking about scorched earth, and now already this week it's like get ready for the atmospheric rivers. Apparently, we're going to get rained on.
Oh well, we got rained on. We've been getting rained on nonstop, but we had a fire ban here in my neck of the woods that they wanted to continue after May long weekend, and well, it turns out a petition went around town, and they reluctantly lifted the fire ban, so we can have fires in our yards now with the permit, as long as you get permission from the authorities. But the good thing about getting a permit is that when they get a call and there's a fire at this location, they'll look it up and go, oh, I know, yeah, these guys are responsible. They'll be fine.
We know that. Yeah. I hate that word permit, and I like what you did there. I often say that when somebody talks about a permit, I use the correct term and I say permission. You're asking for permission, right? You need permission to get married in this country. You need permission to cut a tree on your property. You need permission to build a house, start a business, go fishing. You need permission for pretty much everything. I can't think of. I've actually asked that question. What do I not need permission to do? And there's almost nothing that I don't need permission from the government to do. Something. It's a sad state. I'm going on vacation. Basically, I'm going off for 10 days, and I won't think about this. So yeah, no show next week, but I'll be back the week after for sure.
Sounds good. Marty, where can everybody find you?
Marty Up North on Twitter and on YouTube, but find me on Twitter. That's where I'm active.
That's where it'll be. Cheers, Marty.
Cheers, bud.